All Americans, both those who are well off and those who are near the bottom of the income distribution, are better off now. Their wages have risen more than prices.
It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
Where are you guys from?
Venezuela.
Did you guys cross the border to come into the United States?
Yes.
¿Hicieron su proceso de cambiar aquí en los Estados Unidos or antes?
When I arrive here in USA, I can find a doctor, to hormones, to plastic surgeries, all that I need to continue my process.
So did you do all this here in the United States?
Yes.
And did the government pay for you to transition?
Some plastic surgery is to cover it for the government. If you wanna go to doctor, speak with about whatever you want make in your body, in your face, breast implants and other tips to plastic surgery.
And the government will pay for it?
Is for me the only country that the government pay for a plastic surgery.
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
In Venezuela, for example, the government don't pay nothing for you, and it's a benefits for the people trans.
Right.
How are they going to vote for Biden? Come on. He needs to be on Golden Pond right now, relaxing, right? Shitting in his pants. He can't do this anymore. I don't want to be an asshole, but he's not running the country anyway, so why are they going to vote for him?
Oh shit, man, I'm gonna scorch my shorts.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
Last week got hectic for a lot of people in my neck of the woods. See, South Florida had been under extreme drought conditions because for over 2 months we had almost no rain to speak of outside of a few sprinkles here and there. And then it seemed like that 2 months worth of rain all came within the space of 4 days. And while South Florida is better prepared to deal with something like this with the vast system of drainage canals and retention ponds, this is like tropical storm level rains without the wind. Most places that have some kind of topography with hills and very low areas, they get 4 or 5 inches of rain within the span of 2 days. Then the streets turn into fucking rivers, sweeping away cars and drowning people. Whereas we had spots that got well over 20 inches within the span of a few days. So there were some areas localized where the drainage system gets plugged up and the street will flood. It'll be enough to flood your engine and disable your car, but it's not going to sweep that shit away. But for all the well-built drainage systems, there are still lingering problems that it seems like nobody wants to fucking do anything about.
I tell you, they're not going to be done with this stormwater project until the winter, late fall of 2025. That means we are going to go through this hurricane season and next hurricane season with absolutely no drainage system except for these temporary pumps that they're always too late to put out. That's a fact.
And instead of concentrating on fixing the problems that are having drainage issues, I got all these spots around me where they're tearing up the fucking street for no good reason so that they can widen the medians and put in some trees to beautify it. taking forever and causing traffic nightmares in the process. If they were to actually focus on the functionality of our drainage system instead of this bullshit beautification, we'd be able to handle these storms in a way that would be the envy of the fucking world. Why, if I didn't know any better, I'd say they wanted this kind of thing to be a fucking problem so that they could push this whole, oh, see, climate change is gonna cause us all to fucking drown narrative. It'd be a whole lot easier to buy into that narrative if it weren't for the fact that there is on-record technology to strengthen or weaken storm systems at will. And this goes all the way back to the days of Vietnam with Operation Popeye, where they still want to pretend like, oh, it's ridiculous to think that anybody would want to exacerbate storm problems and flooding, because nobody on Earth has any kind of incentive or possible motive to want to make people afraid of the weather, is there? But whatever, fuck them. We still handled this shit like a champ as far as I'm concerned. And then in other news last week, we had Hunter Biden get convicted of his 3 felony gun charges. But outside of some idiot normies on the right who reacted to the news with
total providence.
And then the media and the people on the left who use this to justify their claims of no one is above the law, most of us took the news with a heaping helping of
Nobody cares! Nobody cares!
And for good reason. You had a lot of people saying, oh, this is just a distraction. On the left, they were saying, oh, the right-wingers are using this as a distraction from all of Biden's wonderful accomplishments. While people on the right were saying, oh, this is just a distraction from all the fucking crazy shit that's going on. As well as a distraction from the much more serious crimes that they declined to charge him with, which also implicate the president. Crimes which are detailed on full display on that little Marco Polo book they put out, which lays out all the serious crimes that are way more prescient, way more relevant than some stupid fucking gun charge. I don't even agree with the law that he got convicted of breaking. Oh, you're addicted to a substance that the government says is a drug, but one of the okay drugs. If you're addicted to Xanax or Valium or Klonopin, well, hey, that's fine, even though if you take too much of them, you can completely fucking flip out and not even remember what you did. But if you've got a medical marijuana card, why, that means that you're by definition addicted to a substance that the feds consider still to be a drug. The whole thing is bullshit from pillar to post. On both sides of the aisle, the people that are what I would consider the uniparty tend to just want to focus on the Jerry Springer type shit of him being on crack and banging strippers, knocking one up, grandchild that Joe Biden refused to acknowledge. It's a lot more fun for people to gossip about, and while they're talking about that, they're not talking about the pay-for-play and all the millions of dollars that he was getting from Ukrainian and Chinese interests. It's a textbook case of a limited hangout. It would be like when they took O.J. Simpson into court if they only ended up charging him with driving too slow on a highway during that infamous police chase. So yeah, I'm kinda over talking or even thinking about this bullshit case any further. The whole thing is a waste of time. I'd rather talk about the kind of shit that doesn't get reported at all. Like this one. I only heard about this story because of this dude's YouTube channel. I saw this story nowhere else, and it's an interesting one in light of what we were just talking about. And it's a perfect example of why the ATF is fucking useless. Worse than useless, really. Because here they tried to put a guy who was completely innocent in prison for 100 years. Showing up at his work, arresting him in front of his coworkers, taking him out, charging him with gun charges and drug dealing charges that turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. And if you're interested in finding out the rest of the details of it, I'd recommend checking this video out. He goes into pretty amazing detail, and it will piss you the fuck off and have you thinking, you know what? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms should be a convenience store, not a government agency. And those assholes also faced a few legal setbacks this week, and deservedly so. First, you had the Texas AG move to block their latest bullshit rule, where they're trying to do an end run around Congress, again, by saying, oh, even private sales need to go through a firearms dealer. So if you've got a good friend or a relative, and they're gonna give or sell you a gun so you can protect yourself, well, you can't be trusted to deal with that kind of transaction on your own. You have to go through the government as a middleman facilitated by one of their licensed FFL holders. This is that whole gun show loophole that they've been whining about for years, even though most gun crime isn't committed by people who get their guns that way. They couldn't get Congress to pass this shit, so they decided, oh, we'll just do it on our own. Which begs the question, oh, well, if you had the legal authority to do this all along, then why did you ever try to get Congress to pass it?
That's a mystery.
And then on the heels of that, they had their pistol brace overturned in a district court. Another example of them trying to pass unconstitutionally a law without going through Congress.
Excuse me, sir. Have you...
Wow! What?
And then the very next day, you had the one that got all the headlines.
Supreme Court reporter Yamiche Alcindor, who is right outside. We just got a new decision, and it has to deal with gun rights. Yamiche, fill us in.
That's right. So in 2018, Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump at the time, told the ATF that they could regulate bump stocks, which is this issue, this mechanism that allows guns to fire like machine guns, that they could regulate that and in some ways outlaw that. The Supreme Court is now saying that needs to be done away with, that bump stocks cannot be regulated as machine guns. This is a 6-3 decision. It's along party lines, which means that this really is taking away a gun regulation that was endorsed and passed under Donald Trump's presidency. So this is big news here in terms of we were watching a number of gun decisions, but in this case it's Garland v. Cargill. It's saying that bump stocks, which again is this mechanism that allows guns to fire more rounds than usual, that cannot be regulated as a machine gun. So that's taking away that regulation.
And do we know the spread on this, Yamiche? Forgive if you said it right off the top. And what is the reasoning?
So right now, it's a 6-3 decision along party lines. That, of course, is the conservative majority. So 6 conservative justices are saying that bump stocks cannot be regulated as machine guns, and 3 of the liberal justices are disagreeing with them here. From the language that's being used, it's saying that the ATF exceeded its authority when regulating bump stocks, that bump stocks cannot be regulated in the way that it would have been regulated under this 2018 rule that was passed by the ATF under Donald Trump's presidency.
Under Donald Trump's presidency. She had to mention that 3 separate times, which it is true. You had the ATF pressuring the NRA, and they pressured Trump and Congress, and he threw that out there like a little bone, and at the time I disagreed with it, but it was like, I know people with a lot more guns than me, and nobody I know even has a fucking bump stock. They're just not useful. It's more like a novelty, but I was against it anyway.
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
You don't compromise with these fucking people. They've done way too much to infringe on the Second Amendment already. But as soon as I heard about this, I jumped on Twitter because I thought, oh, this should be fun.
Hey, bring on the bitches!
You had all the leftist anti-gun people flipping out. And you had people like David Hogg basically rolling around in a puddle of piss and tears, crying like a little bitch. And one thing I saw over and over again was this commentary about how the Supreme Court just basically legalized machine guns. And for the first time in 5 years, people were talking about the Las Vegas shooting again. Even though that was the deadliest ever, people had completely stopped talking about that. Probably because of how ridiculous the fucking official story was. But now they kinda had to bring it up because the bump stock ban was a response to the outcry from that incident. See, among the many ridiculous things that they claim to have happened that night, they said that, oh, this guy did all this with just a regular ass AR with a bump stock.
I don't think so.
And I remember when the footage first came out and I heard that rate of fire on the video, I immediately said, that's a fucking 240 Bravo. They have a very distinct sound. That rate of fire is unmistakable. An AR shooting 5.56 shoots at a noticeably faster rate than a belt-fed automatic 7.62. See if you can spot the difference.
Shit. Seriously, I don't know what's going on.
See, a lot of other people also noticed that that was clearly a fucking 240 Bravo. And then what do you know, the story goes away and the media stops referencing it. And then right after this news broke, I stumbled across this.
So my husband owns a gun shop, and he just called me to tell me that the ATF has made updates to their background check policy, and effective today, they give an exemption to illegal immigrants to be able to purchase firearms. Now, this strangely coincides with California, New York, and Chicago making it legal for illegals to be police officers.
And right after I saw this on Friday, I went looking and I couldn't find any kind of official confirmation as to whether or not this is true. But if it is, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. Things are getting crazy out there, and they're on a trajectory for much more crazy, not less. Which brings me to today's edition of... It's unfortunately become way too common for people to get into a verbal altercation and decide that, oh, since you said some words I don't like, now I have the right to assault you. The only problem with that is... And this is a case where they both ended up being in the wrong. The first guy, for obvious reasons, shouldn't have hit him. And the second guy, once he pulled out, should have let the dude back off. He tries to back away with his hands up, falls on the ground, and he shot him anyway. And this video probably isn't going to play well at his trial. So in this situation, you don't want to be either one of these guys. Of course, by that same token, you don't want to be this guy either. The trick is to just keep your wits about you, don't lose your head, and no matter where you are, assume that everything is being recorded on a video camera. Because most likely, it is. Slancha.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on. Don't fuck with me! I told you! Don't fuck with me! I told you! Don't fuck with me! You stupid fuck! Look at you now! Look at you now!
Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, the ATF shoots someone else's dog.